This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
All right, so this is the Affordable and Fair Housing Partnership, and it is Tuesday, April 11th at 6:06 p.m. Hi, everybody. We do have a new not officially a new member. So I jumped the gun a little bit on the agenda, but I do want to welcome Ben, who has an appointment later this week.
On Thursday.
With the appointments committee. So usually that's there's not a problem, not going to be an issue. But so this is his first meeting, so I thought we could just do quick introductions because that might be helpful for Ben.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So I'm Jana Tatro. I'm the chair of the Housing Partnership. I live in Easthampton, obviously. I work at Community Action Pioneer Valley during my work life, and I've worked in affordable housing kind of for like 15 years before going to Community Action. Go ahead, Jamie.
I'm Jamie Webb. I'm one of the planners for the city. I've been working with the Housing Partnership since the beginning of 2018, and try to be a liaison between the partnership and the city and helping to advance the goals of the partnership.
Great. Cool. Nice to meet you both. Should I go or?
Yeah, you can go.
Okay, cool. So I don't know where to look. I guess I'll look at it.
I know, it's weird.
So we appear up there.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Everyone else is going to appear up there.
Yeah.
But the camera's right there.
It's right there.
Cool. Awesome. So cool. Hello, everybody. Ben Breger. I'm excited to get to know you all and learn more about the Housing Partnership. A little bit about my background. I moved to Easthampton, right? Bought a house in Easthampton in July, but I've lived here for 2 years now. I rented before that. I am from Amherst, so I grew up in the Valley. Let's see, I went to UMass and graduated from there with a degree in planning and landscape architecture, and worked for the town of Amherst for 3 years. We may have corresponded a little bit, Jamie. And while with the town of Amherst, I did some work revolving around affordable housing, just kind of as a complementary role. Wasn't my direct responsibility, but definitely, it was part of permitting and different types of reviews for affordable housing. But have since now worked for the state in the MassDOT as a transportation planner, so I've pivoted a little bit, but I'm just interested in continuing work, advancing affordable housing initiatives, and especially now that I live in Easthampton, kind of doing that for my new home city. I think I'm also, was in a privileged position to be able to buy a house recently, but having, bought a modest single family home and how excruciatingly difficult that was, I think, I come at this with a little bit of personal experience too, just knowing what it takes to even just buy a low, a starter home, if you will. So, I'm excited to get to work and see how I can help.
Great. Do other folks want to introduce themselves?
Oh, I'm here.
Yeah, sure, I can go. Well, I'm Kayam. I've lived in Easthampton for pretty much my whole life, other than when I was in school. So about 25 years. And I also recently just bought a house in Easthampton. So I can sort of relate to the difficulty that is. I am currently a master's student at UMass. I'm getting my master's of public policy and administration. So I've also sort of been involved in this committee since early 2022. And I've sort of taken on responsibility with the Easthampton Housing Coalition, which is sort of our citizens activism wing of this group. So, but yeah, it's great to meet you, and I'm excited to have a new face in the committee.
Thanks.
Oh, Jackie's in her cover.
Hi, Ben. Nice to meet you. I'm Jackie Brusso Pereira, and I'm the longest serving member of this committee. I work at UMass, and And yeah, I want to do what we can for affordable housing. I don't know what else you need to know, but hi. Nice to meet you.
Jess, do you want to introduce yourself?
Do you want me to?
Sure. Oh, you're here, and I'll ask Joel to introduce themselves also. But
Okay.
yeah.
So I'm Jessica Allen. I am a real estate project manager at Valley CDC. So I am a real estate developer, affordable housing developer. I heard you mentioned Amherst. We've got one active project under construction in Amherst called East Gables, which is right by the Amherst College. And we've got a bunch of other projects in the pipeline. And so I just sit here and listen in just to get a sense of what's happening.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Jess is not a member, but she routinely comes, and we appreciate having her
Awesome.
developer insight. Joel, if you want to introduce yourself or say hello, you're welcome to, but you don't have to. Okay. Well, welcome. So on our agenda tonight, I do not have the February meeting notes available for review. I apologize, I didn't get to them. And as a reminder, we did not meet in March, so we had to reschedule our March meeting a couple times, which is how we ended up here on April 11th. So we're not missing March, but I will have the February meeting notes available for our next meeting. Just time escaped me. Next is, so we started this conversation last time, which was about the Western Mass policy briefing with legislators, which was a recorded meeting that Wayfinders and some other folks had hosted, I think probably in January or February. We talked briefly about it at the last meeting about whether or not we wanted to suggest that the planning board watch it or watch portions of it, as it talks about the need for development and why development is important and might help them feel more educated about some of the projects before them and the need for, growth. But we didn't really come to a consensus, and we were going to talk about it again tonight. Rachel, who's not here, who is not a member but was considering being a member, had offered to write some kind of synopsis for us, but that didn't happen, which is fine. So I guess my question is, do we want to let this go? Do we want to keep talking about it? I think the concern from last meeting was, I always feel like I'm yelling, sorry, maybe I am. The concern from last meeting was with whether it was long, right? So it was like an hour and a half, and was the planning board actually going to watch something that was an hour and a half? And we all felt like probably not. And did we want to suggest certain portions of it, or not? So I just want to bring it up again to see if we want to keep talking about this, or we want to just let it go as the planning board potentially gets lots of feedback and other things to do regarding these projects. Does anyone have any feelings about it?
I would say I'm okay with letting it go at this point. And maybe we can watch it. I will admit that I have not watched it myself. But maybe we can sort of bring out some points that we would want to share. I don't know. Since I didn't see it, it's hard to know.
I mean, I watched it, but it was a while ago, to be honest with you.
And for sure, the planning board has plenty of stuff on its plate right now.
Yeah. Kayam, do you have a feeling one way or the other?
I mean, I think at the last meeting, I mentioned getting a copy of the slides possibly. Because I think that there might be some useful tidbits that we can get out of there and maybe communicate in a more digestible, like, one-pager. But yeah, I think adding an hour and a half video, like, I just don't think, yeah, I don't think that's realistic to, like, expect them, or, yeah, I just don't think anyone will watch it.
Okay. Yeah, I don't disagree. I think it's fine to let it go, and maybe I think I did say I would try to get a copy of the slides, which I didn't do. So I could try to get a copy of the slides from Wayfinders, and then maybe we just let it go for now, and we could always, I think we had also talked about maybe posting the slides on our housing partnership page. We could potentially use it in other ways and maybe not necessarily focus on the planning board as an audience. Okay, great. Update on school reuse proposals. So I don't know if folks, the city council meeting that was last Wednesday, the 5th, I think, there was some information in the packet about what the school reuse recommendation was. So I did pull out a copy of it for myself. And Jeff informed me that the property subcommittee is going to meet on April 20th at 6 p.m. to discuss the recommended proposal that the committee recommended, which is Arch Communities. So as a reminder, the mayor appointed a group of folks to review the proposal. So it was Jeff, Salem Derby, Megan Harvey as a school committee appointee, Greg Nettleman, the DPW director, and Michael Owens, the procurement officer. So they reviewed the proposals in the packet to the school committee, not school committee, to the city council, excuse me, was their ranking and how they ranked the proposals. And they recommended Arch Communities. So I encourage us, if we can, to go to the property subcommittee meeting on the 20th. I think I'm available to go. It's virtual, so we don't actually have to go anywhere. And just kind of be available to listen to see what comes up at the property subcommittee. I don't know, Jamie, if you have any insight, but I mean, I think it could go multiple ways, right? Like they could just agree with the committee and bring that forward to city council. They could not agree with the committee and come up with a different preferred developer to bring forward to city council. You know, so I think we should be, they could come up with some weird ask of the developer and bring that forth to city council. So I think we just want to keep an eye on the process.
I would say that pretty much summarizes it. You know, the selection committee had interviews with each of the developers. Those meetings were recorded and are available on the project page. So hopefully the city councilors take a look at those meetings and review the proposal and what was sent to them. But you're right. I mean, they can do whatever they want with that report. And then once it gets to city council, you know, they'll send it back to city council with either an affirming vote of what the selection committee had chosen or one of the weird other options that you mentioned.
And city council could also, will they just accept whatever property decides?
Well, they still need to vote as a whole. And I believe it's a 2/3.
Okay.
2/3 majority vote. So, you know, the council does not need to follow the recommendation of the subcommittee, but typically they do.
Okay.
Do we suspect that members of the selection committee will be at that property committee meeting as well? Like to answer questions and stuff like that?
I would expect that to be the case.
I would expect Jeff to be there at the very least.
Yeah.
Whether they're all there or not. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so that's next Thursday. I will try and hop on that call as well. Remind us, so JP's on property committee, right? Who else is on property?
Owen and Omar, is that who it was?
That sounds right.
Unless it's changed.
Okay, no, I think you're right.
That's who was on it last.
Okay.
I mean, I will say that, so Arch Street, you know, and Ben, for your background in case you weren't watching these when they were coming up the last time. I mean, a lot of what was the Pepin gym has been a big focus of like
Over here, yeah.
retaining the gym and being able to use the gym. And so Arch,
Yeah, JP, Omen, and Homer.
okay. Now I don't remember. I think Arch Communities retains both.
Yes. That's
Yes.
what-
Okay.
In the auditorium.
My understanding was that they, at least looking through what was submitted to council in the agenda packet, it was that they're retaining both and they're willing to work with the city on the unit count and size of each of, or the number of units and help
So like
with
bedroom.
the number of bedrooms in each unit.
Yeah.
So it's possible that one of those weird other options that you
Right.
proposed is that they come back with, we want more units, or we want more family units and fewer studios or whatever. Yeah.
I think if I recall, and someone else chime in if I don't remember this correctly, but I think it was the retaining the gym, and then the auditorium was like more like retained as community space. It wasn't necessarily retained as theater space.
Mhm.
The other proposal from NHP Foundation retained it as theater space. And they had a partnership with the theater group that was vocal during the process. But I think Arch was like a little bit more vague about the auditorium, like it was being retained, but not necessarily as a community theater. If I recall, I don't have my notes with me, but
That was my understanding.
okay. Yeah, go
Is
ahead.
Arch out of Boston?
What?
Is that, where is Arch? Is Arch the one out of Boston that did 50 Cottage Street, or am I making that up in my head?
No, that's correct.
You're correct.
Okay.
And they partnered, in their proposal, they partnered with 5 Star as the contractor, I think, which is
Okay.
really local, obviously. Jess, you have your hand up?
Yeah, just a reminder to the committee, if you're attending, and just, information you may just want to have in your head, if there is a lot of discussion about unit configuration and pushback on how the units need to be configured, a number of bedrooms, is that DHCD has some has some design standards, like you need to have at least 60% 2 bedrooms or more. Now, they are a little bit flexible when it comes to a reuse of a building, that there is that ability to have some flexibility. But, I just want the committee to be aware that DHCD is pretty adamant about how they want the units to be configured, and there's standards for that. And I think I have that when Valley did the memo for the school reuse committee, about like a fit test of how many units we thought each building could potentially house. There is information in that memo, so that should be publicly available, and you could probably get it off of the school reuse site. So
Okay,
Yeah,
just
it
to
is,
have on hand.
thank you.
it is still there.
Okay. Okay. So that's exciting. So we still have a long way to go. So just, if property committee, quickly decides that they agree with the selection committee and moves it to city council, it's supposed to go to city council on May 17th at 6:15. That will be a public hearing at city council. And that will be a hybrid meeting according to what is currently scheduled. So that would also be a great opportunity for housing partnership members to attend, assuming we are happy with how things are going, speak in support of the project. It's also an opportunity for other people to air their own opinions. And so we might hear from folks who might not be happy about something. But then also, that's just the beginning of the process. Then the developer is going to get site control. Then they're going to have to start go forward with their permits. And that's when we might, again, we will need to be paying attention to that process and be available to attend meetings and, listen to what feedback community members have about it. Any other
Always a
questions?
joy.
Yes, always a joy, exactly. So a long way to go. But it's exciting that I mean, I was just excited that we got 3 proposals. Right? I mean,
Yeah.
there was a hot second there where we were all a little worried, so. I think we're in good shape. So, okay. This could be a short meeting. I feel like I'm talking to myself most of the time, guys, so.
Sorry.
I know, it's okay. You're parked, you're not driving, so that's.
I'm not driving. No, I'm in between work and another thing. And I was like, I'm just going to park and do the meeting from my car. So here I am.
We could go out of order a little bit on the agenda. Kaya, do you have any housing coalition updates you want to share?
Not a ton. I just scheduled the next meeting, though, for April 26th at 5:30. And then now that we have our mission statement sort of ironed out, I got a little bit more public with it and shared it on the Easthampton group page. And I had Jamie share it through the Easthampton Planning Board, and I'm going to reach out to the mayor and have it go through the Easthampton City page as well. So hopefully that'll drive a little bit more engagement. I'm trying to find my meeting notes. I think that there was an interesting discussion that we had surrounding the Sierra Vista project. Mm-hmm. And it seems like in general, the committee members or the coalition members see sort of a contrast between projects that the group can be excited about and put our full weight behind, projects like the school reuse proposal that has, that has units targeting that 30% range. We're not bringing in a big developer, that kind of stuff. And projects where we see the affordable housing component as more of a concession, that is what they're putting in the project to get it through. And in that situation, we don't necessarily feel as excited to put our weight behind it, especially in this case where there's so much legitimate, we feel, especially after really fielding all of the concerns, problems with that project. Mm-hmm. And projects like it in general, but like we've established here, that project is pretty unique in terms of Easthampton.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting point of discussion that we had. But other than that, we looked at the legislative watch list that the Western Mass Network to End Homelessness created, which was pretty interesting. We were talking about the possibilities of getting behind the real estate transfer tax. I think Councilor Riley was saying, we're sort of in a sweet spot where we can tailor the tax to bring in a lot of revenue for affordable housing and both production and maintenance. So I think that that's interesting. But yeah, other than that, the next meeting, like I said, is April 26th at 5:30. And yeah.
Great. Thank you. That's helpful. Yeah, I mean, so the next planning board meeting on Sierra Vista / Tasty Top is on May 2nd. And, see what happens.
Are they in a public hearing phase or is it just preliminary review? Okay. Yeah. If you should come because as a transportation planner, you might be fascinated. Yeah. Lots to talk about traffic.
On a state road.
Yeah, I know. We talk about it a lot, so Route 10 is problematic.
Yeah. I hope that I briefly chatted with the developer after the last meeting, mostly about traffic and the light on the location or the access road or whatever. And I just hope that he is listening to what some of the, I think he has 2 choices. He can just go ahead like he's going and hope for the best and hope the planning board approves it, or he could listen to what some of the feedback and concerns are and try to make some concessions. And I think that would go a long way, but he has to come to that agreement. If, you know, he could move the driveway, he could listen to the people who are concerned about the size of the buildings or the location of the building, you know, I don't know. So, but
I'm curious about that project. The question I have is actually for Jess. So it seems to me like the developer would benefit from consulting with an organization that builds affordable housing. And I'm just curious to know if that has happened or if you've offered it or, you know.
No, I mean, I don't know if people know, but we did put an offer on that piece of property and didn't offer enough. So our offer was not accepted. I think we at Valley pride ourselves on doing things a little bit differently than maybe the standard developer. We spend an incredible amount of time doing community outreach before we submit anything to anybody. These guys are private developers. They're an engineering firm. I know that they have Peter Graham assisting them on the affordable housing piece and working out those numbers and helping them through the DHCD process. But in terms of the site design and all of that, you know, I recommended to Peter the last time I saw him and we were talking about the project that they would benefit from hiring a landscape architect, in my opinion, just to help with some of those site design concerns. You know, they're at a place where they are at. It seems, in my opinion, that they should have spent more time doing some community outreach, talking to abutters, talking to the neighbors, talking to land trusts, talking to the city. So, you know, I think they're in a place where they are, and that's the path that they've chose to take in. But I think that's, you know, could be a pretty standard path for a private developer. That's kind of the way that they do business, I think. Community development, we just do things a little bit differently. So,
right.
Yeah, we haven't been consulted at all, but I know they have Peter at least assisting them on the DHCD, running the numbers, doing the pro formas, you know, understanding what's going to fly under DHCD.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I plan to attend the May 2nd meeting. I guess we'll and just kind of keep seeing what's going on, what happens. But, I don't think there's much else to say about that at this point. All right. So the only other thing that I put on the agenda is just talking about, you know, we touched on this a couple of times at other meetings, but like recruitment and then, you know, any additional priorities that we want to talk. I wrote 2023, but I feel like 2023 is like half over at this point because it's April, but just like any other priorities that we want to think about. I think, you know, the Tasty Tot project and the school reuse are obviously really big, you know, seeing those through and attending those meetings and being available for, you know, if anyone wanted to get our opinion or anything, it's important. And I think sort of our top priorities, but if there's other things that we want to be working on or thinking about, I did go back through the housing production plan because we do have some strategies and action plan summary toward the back of that project, and the housing partnership, you know, is listed as some of the like primary leaders for some of the things. You know, some things that, you know, have already happened. So for example, remove the regulatory barriers for accessory apartments. Like we have a new accessory dwelling ordinance. So like we can start that off our list sort of, because that's already happened. I think there's also something in here about parking, which I think also didn't our parking get addressed also, I thought, for
It was like revising the parking parking minimums
for multifamily. Prepare an RFP to solicit developers for Center, Maple and Pepin. Check. So I don't know if, I mean, we could look through this tonight. We could look through this another time. But I guess maybe just Jackie and I are the ones who've been on this for a longer period of time, but our previous housing production plan, we did use as like our to-do list. And so we would look at those priorities. The previous housing production plan actually had like, I don't know, more priority. There were more things on the list. So this actually is, I think, a little bit more streamlined, which is nice. And you know, as many of us know, and Ben, for your benefit, like we do have a climate right now at city council where affordable housing is a priority for city councilors, and they want to talk about affordable housing and they want to talk about zoning, and that isn't always the case.
Yeah.
So like if we have an opportunity to, if there's other things to bring up, I think it's on page 30 something, 55 maybe. Like if there's any other zoning things we want to talk about, you know, now's a good, you know, we're in a good climate to get things done. Whereas, you know, you never know if that's going to remain the case.
Do you think it might be helpful to have another joint meeting with folks on EDIC to talk about stuff? Because I feel like we share a lot of similar concerns.
It's a great idea, Jackie.
I can reach out to Gwen.
Okay.
To ask her about that, and maybe we do that in like May or June. I don't know.
That's a great idea, actually, because they just had a big victory. Was it a city council? Must have been a city council that they were talking about. They have like a vacant storefront. Was it an ordinance? What was it? It has to do with vacant storefronts.
Yes.
Yeah, that EDIC worked on with the planning department, and city council that was passed, or
I think it was just sent to city council for the April 5th meeting.
Yeah.
I assume it passed because I didn't hear otherwise.
So yeah, that's a good idea. I also know that, you know, EDIC continues to like dabble in housing. And so it's always a good opportunity to, you know.
That was the other thing that was in the back of my head.
Yeah. And they've been great. I mean, Tom and Gwen have spoken at the, you know, around the Taste the Top project, have spoken in favor of the project. And so it's nice to be able to support each other. So that's a good suggestion. We could see if they have a joint meeting with, it would probably be good just to have a joint meeting with EDIC anyway, just to share information.
So I'll reach out to Gwen and let her, well, depending on when our next meeting is.
We need to talk about that.
We'll throw some dates back and forth, and then I'll get back. Does that sound good?
Yeah, that sounds great. Jamie's sharing this is the action items from the housing production plan. We had one really, really ambitious one, which was eliminating single family only districts by allowing duplexes in all districts by right. Which is a very ambitious one. We also updated and modified the downtown we didn't, the planning department did, smart growth overlay district, right? That happened in May of yeah. So look, all the things we can just check off. I'm just looking to see if anything else jumps out at me. The infill and how small affordable housing projects we've been talking about forever.
We might have some more opportunities now that the Gall properties have been transferred.
I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the Gall properties. Because there's a lot of them.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that work with owners of existing downtown properties to encourage them to add upper floor housing.
So Bernie Gall was just passed away like
Okay.
last year and owned like
Just owned a lot of
lots of land.
different parcels.
Land, okay.
So primarily responsible for a bunch of the subdivisions in the Plains area of the city.
Okay.
So,
But-
can't remember the names of the streets.
The Union Street Plaza.
Yeah, the Family Dollar Plaza.
Okay, gotcha.
The Hurry Scurry building.
Scurry building
Oh, right.
that just came down.
Yeah. Okay.
And then there's a big parcel in New City.
Okay.
There's a bunch of, or it's actually multiple different parcels that are bordering Brickyard Brook.
Okay.
There's a big parcel on East Street right near where I used to live that he would occasionally move dirt around.
Yeah.
And there was a big parcel, so behind Saranac,
Yeah.
there's like 12 lots back there. So the like chatter is whether or not his family will be interested in hoarding land like he was, or if they will start selling it.
Right.
And if they start selling it, then we might see a lot more
Totally.
stuff being built.
Okay.
So
All right, cool. Thank you.
it's just, but the Hurry Scurry building is gonna be housing, right? Or housing up and something
Exactly.
down.
It's going to be retail or commercial first floor, and then there's a couple of units on the second floor. I think maybe 4 in total.
Yeah. So that's great because that kind of fits into our like infill, like small projects in small spaces idea. Okay. Well, I like the idea of meeting jointly with the EDIC, and maybe that's when we could sort of go through some of this stuff more closely with them.
Yeah, we've known in the past that they're often working on some of these things and we don't know about it. So we know about it. So
Yes.
we're going to work together.
Okay. I think that's a good idea. How did you, so recruitment is the thing we always talk about. How did you find us? I'm just curious.
I guess so. I'm a municipal planning nerd in a lot of ways. So when I moved to Easthampton, it kind of the timing worked out where I was also leaving my job in Amherst around the same time, and so I missed all these evening meetings that I had to go to. No, I wanted to get involved with the city in some capacity, and this committee caught my eye. I noticed there was an opening. I think I had to be a little bit careful, like still working for the state in terms of like not doing, obviously probably not planning board or ZBA, just like conflict of interest wise. But I figured this one, just seemed like a good opportunity. And I watched the parts of the meeting from 2 months ago, maybe. I don't know, just to kind of get a flavor of what's going on, and read some agendas, and it seemed interesting. So
Great, that's helpful.
yeah.
I mean, we just revamped our description on our on the website, but we struggle with because we're an advisory committee, we don't have a lot of authority, so we don't do a lot of things. So I think we've struggled with folks not really understanding what they're getting into, and then housing being kind of technical, and so but we're always trying to figure out how to recruit more folks. So that's I don't know.
Right, and so like by trying to better define what it is and how to
what is it that we really do, and what could you expect if you were on the partnership, and so we tried to revamp our description a little bit. But we're always looking for folks who either have a background in housing or don't, or have a planning background or banking or real estate. It's just helpful to have that kind of diversity, but it's hard to recruit folks, and given all the chatter that's going on right now about other things, I mean, why people would volunteer to do anything is really hard to figure out.
There were a fair number of openings on boards and committees.
Yes, there are.
So it seems like a diverse array of different opportunities, but how many slots are on the partnership right now. I wasn't sure. A few.
We have 9. Yes. We have 9, and we have Jackie, Kayam, Shira, me. We have 4 active members.
Okay.
We have 1 member who's not very active.
Okay.
So technically we have 5. We would have 6 with you, which
Okay.
would be the highest number we've had in a while.
Exactly. Okay.
We've never had 9. I don't think. Jackie could remember, but I don't think we've ever had 9.
Yeah.
We tried at one point to get away from having a number, but
Yeah, there was interest in trying to change the charter a bit to lower it to 7 or 5.
Right.
at one point, I specifically recall Mayor Cadger telling us to just take the number out, which was clearly not allowed because we still have 9.
Yeah. Yeah. 9 is a lot for a.
I know. We could
Advisory
petition
board,
to have
yeah.
less, though there was a lot of hubbub at the city council meeting last week about the community engagement group trying to petition to have less. Maybe people would care less about us, but that was like, I had turned it off because they were an hour later, they were still talking about it. And I was like, I'm going to eat dinner. This is too much.
This was the community relations.
Yes, they wanted to have fewer members and it became quite the topic of conversation. And so, but we could, I mean, we've never had 9. So that always makes me feel like we're a failure.
So is quorum defined as just like based on how many active members there are? Not like.
That's how we define it.
Okay, gotcha. Just clarifying.
Different groups, different
Yeah.
city agencies
Okay,
have different,
gotcha.
or different boards have different rules depending on.
We don't really decide much, right? Like
Yeah.
we decide things for ourselves, like if we're going to move forward with something, but we're not approving a project.
Yeah, no, I know.
All right, well, just keep thinking about member recruitment, everybody. And then, I mean, the nice thing is that we have the housing coalition. So for folks who really are more interested in more grassroots advocacy and like, that kind of stuff, then the coalition is a nice like complement for folks who want to do that instead of housing partnership. Okay, so we are flying through our meeting, which I don't think is a problem. My last question is, because we had to reschedule this meeting, we are supposed to, our next scheduled meeting is April 27th, which is only a couple weeks away. So do we want to keep that meeting? Or do we want to cancel that meeting because we potentially need to go to property subcommittee, planning board, like within, around those times, and then just meet on May 25th, which would be our May meeting? Or do we think that we want to meet in April? I don't have a preference, but.
Well, I won't be here April 27th. I will be at a concert in New York with my daughter. So if that matters. I would prefer waiting till May, especially since I'm putting these other meetings on my calendar.
Yeah. Kayam, do you have an opinion?
Yeah, I'm sort of feeling the same way. I think I'm having a lot of thoughts about like recruitment and some of the stuff regarding the housing production plan, but I want to like think it through and like have some well-constructed ideas. And I think waiting till May would be good.
Okay. Then let's cancel April 27th. We'll meet on May 25th at 6 p.m. So we usually meet on the fourth Thursday of the month at 6. And Jackie, if you want to reach out to Gwen to find out when when we could have a joint meeting of the EDIC, maybe shooting for June for that, because maybe we could use May 25th to like really think more about what we might want to talk to the EDIC about.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
I can do that.
Do you follow their agendas or minutes?
I don't, but you can do that, right?
Yeah, so you can, Through the website, you can subscribe to through the notify me to whatever board or committee, and you'll get an email letting you know a new agenda's been posted or minutes have been uploaded. So
Okay.
at least you'll have an idea of what they say they're talking about on their agenda. I think Gwen's pretty, she makes herself pretty available. So if she were invited to a meeting, or if a couple members of the Housing Partnership wanted to go to an EDIC meeting, I think that would be well received.
Okay.
Might be harder to have like
A joint
meeting.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay.
And then
Yeah,
what?
Gwen is also on the partnership. So she's sort of, I've been updating her about what we've been doing here, coalition, not partnership. So yeah, she's totally down to collaborate as much as we want. So
Yeah, it stands for the Economic Development Industrial Commission.
Okay.
And they, right, is that what it is? Or Easthampton?
It's on,
Industrial.
I think it's Easthampton Development and Industrial Commission, but they say it's also the Economic Development Industrial Commission, but it's not it's not like, it was not formed under the state's EDIC.
Right. Oh, interesting. Okay.
So it may be called that, but it's not the true Economic Development Industrial Corporation, because they don't have bonding authority and they can't really take on their own projects. They're an advisory group similar to this group.
So sometimes we've collaborated in the past, and housing, kind of goes in both, is a priority for both of us, obviously. And I think they've been more focused lately, but for a while they were struggling with projects to work on. So, but we've met with them before, so I think that's a great idea to do that again. Great. I don't think I have anything else. Does anyone else have anything else they want to bring up or talk about?
Not I.
Okay. Can I have a, do you have something?
You haven't heard anything about the Main Street project?
No.
Okay. I didn't know if they had reached out to you.
They have not reached out to me, so there is another potential affordable housing project on Main Street down by the, is it the Fedor property, like down by Big Y? That big piece of land?
Yeah.
And they were going to come to our February meeting and then backed out. So I haven't heard from them since, actually. I did, I think, not just in my head, email their consultant to just kind of remind them that it's really helpful if they come to us before they go to the planning board. So the Tasty Tot project went to the planning board first, and because of the timing of when they wanted to do that, and then came to us after they'd already gone to the planning board. And it was challenging to not be able to provide them some feedback before they went to the planning board. So I had strongly encouraged the Main Street folks to come to us, not the day before they plan to go to the CBA, but I haven't heard from them.
I mean, I think, so to clarify, the Taste Out project is going in there under a 40R smart growth and so it's going through that process. They're not using the comprehensive permit law to get their project done, whereas the 385 Main Street would be comprehensive permit 40B. And I believe they're actually required as part of that process to get a letter of support from the local housing committee. So I don't think that they can get to the zoning board of appeals until they've at least done some preliminary work here.
We got some really good feedback from some members last time that they might need more than one meeting. So if a developer is going to come to us, the assumption shouldn't be we're going to say okay. And I wanted them to make sure that they were building in enough time that they don't come to us assuming we're going to immediately write them a letter and then they could go to ZBA the next week. but, so I haven't heard from them. So I don't know what's going on with that project.
I'll imagine we'll,
So eventually, I have a suspicion they're waiting to see what goes on with, even though it's not it's the planning board, not the zoning board, but I think they're kind of trying to see what happens with the other project. Anybody have anything else? Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Kyle. All right, it is 6:56. And we are going to adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Jamie
Thank
can
you.
stop the recording.
Thank you.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.